All right, guys, so we are starting with factoring polynomials review. I will attach this as a PDF if you want to go ahead and look it over. The first one I'm going to talk about is two terms. Subtracting both terms are perfect squares, and the difference of two squares is where I'm going to start. So let's say I had, I think my pen's got stolen. I had the equation 4x squared minus 25. All right, let's say that I had that. Well, I would look and see, are they both perfect squares? 4 and 25. Yes, those are both perfect squares. Are they separated by a subtraction sign? Yes, they are. So they meet the two requirements for being a perfect, the difference of two squares. So then what I would do is I would take the square root of each term. I would take the square root of 4x squared, and I would take the square root of 25. Well, the square root of 4x squared is simply 4. Is simply 2x, and the square root of 25 is equal to 5. So I would take these two terms and I would put them into their own parentheses. It would be 2x plus 5 in one parenthesis and 2x minus 5 in the other. So difference of two squares. Okay, so keep in mind, guys, what it says up here is first look for a GCF. So if there was something that I could divide out of this term first, I would for sure have to do that. All right, so let's look here. Split the middle term. Let's just say, I'll start with one where I have an a coefficient. So 6x squared minus 19x plus 15. Okay, well, first thing I look is there's something all three of these terms can divide into. No, there is not. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make my magic little x, and I'm going to multiply my 6 and my 15. I'll multiply these two numbers, and I'll put them at the top. Well, 6 times 15 is 90. And then I'll take that middle brother that nobody likes, negative 19, and I'll move him to the bottom. And then I need to think, hey, what multiplies to negative 90, but when I add them together is negative 19? That would be a negative 9 and a negative 10. So now I have successfully split my middle term, right? I have a negative 9 and a negative 10, and together those add up to negative 19. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these terms, 6x squared, I'm going to group it with either one of these terms. I'm just going to take negative 9x, so put it with a negative 9x, then minus, because it's a negative 10, negative 10x, and then take your last term, remember, first and last term, plus 15, and I have my whole equation. So I'm going to factor it by GCF. By grouping, not GCF. And I'm also going to pay attention to that when we're factoring by grouping, pay attention to that third term. That third term is negative. So make sure you notice that. All right, so here I'm going to look at what goes into 6x and 9x. Well, that is a 3x. So I will factor out a 3x, and I'll be left with 2x minus 3. And then here, I'll look at what goes into 10 and 15. Oh, well, that's a 5. But keep in mind that third term was negative. So I'm going to factor out a negative 5. And that's going to leave me with a 2x minus 3. And then I look and see, are my parentheses matchy-matchy? Why, yes, they are. So I end up with 3x minus 5 for one parenthesis and 2x minus 3 for the other parenthesis. Okay, well, and then over here, I'm going to go ahead and solve it with no a. Well, a is just going to be 1. So x squared plus 24x plus 80. Again, I do multiply the first and last term, all right, and that would be 80. And I bring the middle brother that nobody likes to the bottom. And I think, hey, what multiplies to 80 and adds to 24? That would be 4. and 20. Okay, so I have x squared. I'm just going to put my 4 terms down. So my x squared plus 4x, my 4 here, plus 20x plus 80. All right, and then I get a factor by grouping. And if I look at my third term, this time it's positive, so I don't have to worry about factoring out a negative. Okay, so I can factor out an x, and I'm left with x plus 4. And here, I can actually factor out a whole 20, a big number. So 20, and I'm going to have x plus 4. Well, my parentheses are matchy-matchy. Hooray! So I know I did it right. And I will have x plus 20 for one parenthesis and x plus 4 for the other parenthesis. And that will be my answer. Okay, if I've lost you guys, it might be because factoring by grouping is still an issue for you. So let's practice our factoring by grouping. We need 4 terms. Remember, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 terms to factor by grouping. Goodness, I'm a mess. All right, so 10m cubed plus 15m squared minus 2m minus 3. All right, we have 4 terms, so we're going to group them 2 and 2. And I'm also going to pay attention to that this third term is negative. So when I get to this part, I'm going to need to factor something out that's negative. All right, here I'll see that, oh gosh, okay, well, they both can be divisible by 5, and the m's, all right, well, and that's m to the third, and that's m to the second. Remember, I take the m with the smallest exponent. So I'm going to factor out a 5m squared. All right, I'm going to have a 2m plus 3, right, because 3 times 5 would be 15m squared. And then here, there's nothing that these really go into, so I'm going to divide out a negative 1, and I'm going to have 2m plus 3, right? The only thing that changes is the signs. And lo and behold, I have matchy-matchy parentheses, and that's exactly what I wanted. So I know that my new answer is going to be 5m squared minus 1 times 2m plus 3. And that is your review for factoring polynomials. But just remember, guys, you must look for a GCF first. Look for a GCF first. Look and see, are any of them divisible by something, by the same thing, and divide by that number. Okay, bye-bye.